Welcome back to Sips for Change, where we bring you people and planet conscious conversations.
And also, welcome back to the next installment of our Sustainable Consumerism series. Today, we're demystifying some of the major sustainability certifications across the Asia Pacific region.
If you're an event planner or a conscious consumer in the Asia Pacific region, you've probably seen a jungle of green labels and certifications on products and services. It's probably a bit overwhelming, so let's talk through them in a bit more detail.
Think of this as your EcoLabel starter pack for sourcing decor, food and beverage, merch, and other products in the region.
So let's start with China and the China Environmental Labeling Program. It's one of the earliest and most influential national eco labels there.
This program kicked off in 1994 and is owned by the China's Ministry of Ecology and Environment, with the China Environmental United Certification Center running it day to day. It's based on the ISO 14024, which is the international standard for Type 1 eco-labels, multi-criteria, and it's third-party verified.
Criteria span a ton of categories: building materials, furniture, textiles, electronics, automobiles, daily chemicals, and more. To get certified, products have to meet category-specific requirements that look at life cycle impact, pollution reduction, and resource efficiency.
For governance, China has moved from just managing labels to supervising the entire certification process, from unified product catalogs, common evaluation standards, and stricter oversight of auditors and certified products. That's meant to prevent abuse or inconsistent application.
For consumers and planners, the upside is that this label can be a quick filter when you're sourcing large volume items like furniture, printed materials, or electronics for events in China. You're not just guessing who's greenwashing.
On the flip side, there are some critiques about how it's too complex, the criteria can be super hard to understand for non-experts, and that enforcement quality may vary in practice. Also, not every eco-friendly product seeks certification. So if you rely on this label alone, you might miss the smaller, more innovative suppliers. Next, let's talk about Japan's EcoMark, run by the Japan Environment Association. This is Japan's only Type 1 eco-label operating under the ISO 14020 and the ISO 14024.
EcoMark has been around since the late 1980s and now covers more than 70 criteria sets with over 45,000 certified products and services. The criteria are based on life cycle thinking and focus on four key areas: resource saving and recycling, climate impact, hazardous substances, and biodiversity.
To get the EcoMark label, companies apply in a specific product category and then undergo a third-party review against those life cycle-based criteria. Committees oversee strategy and criteria development and product certification to keep the process transparent and fair.
For our planners, seeing EcoMark on paper products, office supplies, or even services can simplify vendor selection in Japan, especially when aligning with corporate ESG policies.
But the criticisms? Some say that the criteria can lag behind emerging best practices, and because it's voluntary, it doesn't automatically transform entire sectors. There's also an accessibility issue. Smaller suppliers may find fees and the documentation too burdensome and too difficult to access.
Let's hop over to Taiwan and the Taiwan Green Mark. This is another Type 1 eco label and is explicitly defined that way under ISO 14024.
The Green Mark program launched in 1992 under Taiwan's Environmental Protection Administration. Its goal is to promote recycling, pollution reduction, and resource conservation across multiple product categories.
Here's how it works. First, Taiwan sets criteria for each product group using life cycle considerations. Then products are verified against those criteria, and only ones that meet them can use the Green Mark logo.
For the consumers, it's a shorthand for this product has lower overall environmental impact than conventional alternatives within that category. For planners, This is especially useful when sourcing things like cleaning products, paper, and building materials within Taiwan.
What are the drawbacks? Because it's voluntary, coverage is incomplete and some categories still have limited options. There's also the classic eco-label issue. Unless you educate attendees and stakeholders, the logo alone might not communicate the depth of the criteria.
Now, moving forward with India, let's zoom in on their Green Pro certification. But from this time, a consumer product angle, even though that label does also provide guidance and regulations around green buildings.
Green Pro was developed by the Confederation of Indian Industry through its Green Business Center as a way to label products that generally support a lower impact lifestyle. Things like cleaning agents, paints, paper products, packaging, and other everyday items.
The criteria are tailored to each product category and look across the product's life cycle. For a consumer-facing product, Green Pro will typically assess the raw materials like the recycled or reasonably sourced content of the product. It will also look at manufacturing energy and water use, toxic or hazard substances, packaging design, and whether or not the product is recyclable or helps reduce waste.
Governance comes through CII and its technical committees, which set the benchmarks, approve category-specific standards, and oversee third-party assessments. Once a product meets the criteria, it can carry the Green Pro label so buyers, including households, offices, and even organizers, can quickly identify it as a better environmental choice.
For event planners, this is super relevant when you're choosing things like supplies at events, paints and coatings for temporary builds and designs, paper goods, and packagings for giveaways, or even certain types of food packaging in India. Green Pro certified products can help you reduce toxic exposures to staff and attendees and cut waste. It can help you align with corporate sustainability metrics without doing all of the technical homework yourself.
But they are trade-offs. Green Pro still covers a limited slice of the overall consumer market, and many smaller or innovative brands may be truly sustainable but not certified yet because of cost, capacity, or awareness. That means if you only shop by the label, you might overlook great local options.
There's also the usual eco-label communication gap. Like we said before, most consumers don't know what goes into the Green Pro criteria, so the logo alone can feel abstract. So it's planners' jobs to still educate and explain why we choose these products, and we should pair that label with questions about social impact, worker safety, end of life handling for. So Green Pro is not just a tool, but a whole sustainability story.
Hmm. Let's head to South Korea and the Korea Eco Label Program. This was launched in April 1992 and is governed by the Ministry of Environment, with operations handled by the Korea Environmental Labeling Association.
The legal backbone is the development of and support for Environmental Technology Act. The ministry sets regulations and promotes green procurement, while KELA selects product groups, develops criteria, certifies products, and does marketing and international cooperation.
Criteria typically address reduced resource use, lower emissions, and fewer hazardous substances compared with conventional products in the same category. There's also ongoing surveillance checks to make sure certified products continue to comply.
For planners buying electronics, office or event equipment, building materials for staging and booth design, or cleaning products in Korea, the eco label can support both sustainability targets and government procurement standards.
Potential downsides include program complexity and the risk that criteria become outdated if not regularly revised. Like other voluntary schemes, smaller or newer companies might be underrepresented, so a label is not the whole story.
Finally, let's look at Singapore's Green Labeling Scheme, or SGLS. It started in 1992, originally initiated by the Ministry of Environment and later run by the Singapore Environment Council.
SGLS is a Type 1 eco-label independently verified by a third party and built around life cycle considerations. There's also SGLS Plus, A higher tier label for specific pulp and paper products launched in 2017.
To get certified under SGLS, a product must fall into a defined category, like cleaning products, paper, or building material, and meet all environmental requirements for that category, including limits on toxic content, resource use, and sometimes energy performance.
Governance includes independent technical review and periodic updates to criteria. In Singapore's procurement-heavy economy, SGLS plays a big role in guiding both corporate and government purchasing.
The benefits for consumers and planners is that it simplifies vendor shortlists and supports credible green marketing. But there can and have been criticisms around the transparency of the criteria for non-experts and the potential for confusion with other private green logos in the region.
Hmm. Let's land this with some rapid-fire guidance for planners working in these markets.
1. Treat these labels, such as China Environmental Labeling, EcoMark, Taiwan Green Mark, Green Pro in India, Korea EcoLabel, and SGLS, as filters, not the end-all be-all answers. Use them to narrow your options, then also still ask your vendors for social practices, labor conditions, and circularity.
2. Watch the scope. Some labels are strong on product impacts but say nothing about logistics, worker welfare, or community impacts, which matter a lot for events.
3. Educate your stakeholders. When you feature these eco-labels in your RFPs or attendee communications, add one line explaining what they mean so people understand that this is more just than a pretty logo.
And 4. Be realistic about criticisms, like limited coverage, uneven uptake, or possible outdated criteria. But don't let perfect be the enemy of better. These schemes still shift markets and send signals.
Love that. Great way to capture that in one sentence. And if our audience wants us to do a deep dive into any of the one country certification landscape, like comparing hotel standards or food service labels in one market, drop that in the comments below.
Like, subscribe, share this with a fellow friend or planner.
Once again, thanks for joining us, and make sure to be sipping for change.